The smell of cleaning spray never left her hands, and her faded clothes always carried the faint trace of dust and detergent. Maria had grown used to it, not because she liked it, but because it was the only way to survive. Every morning before the sky turned bright over Washington, she tied her old jacket tighter, held her daughter's small hand, and walked toward the neighborhoods where houses rose like palaces against the gray skyline. To Maria, every polished floor she scrubbed, every glass window she shined, and every room she cleaned was a reminder of the life she once dreamed of but could never reach. Her daughter, Lily, only 6, followed quietly. Lily should have been in school, laughing with other kids, learning to read, building castles out of blocks. But Maria had no choice. Her husband had left years ago, burdened by debt and shame, never returning, and she was left alone. Family had turned away, and life in Washington was not forgiving for a single mother with no college degree. Bringing Lily along wasn't a choice. It was the only way. Daycare was too expensive, and Maria couldn't risk leaving her alone in their tiny rented apartment. That morning felt like every other. The air in the city carried the crisp bite of autumn. Cars honked in traffic, and her stomach already felt hollow. She reached a large home in Bellevue, one of the wealthy suburbs where the lawns looked manicured like magazine covers and the driveways gleamed with expensive cars. The house was massive, with glass walls and a front yard that looked like it belonged in a movie. Lily's eyes widened, as always, but she held tightly to her doll with the frayed dress and stayed close. Inside, the house smelled of fresh flowers and polished wood. Maria whispered for Lily to sit quietly in the corner while she worked. She knew her place. Workers were meant to be invisible in houses like this. Don't speak too much, don't ask questions, don't touch what doesn't belong to you. Maria had learned to shrink herself into silence. She bent down to pick up toys scattered across the living room, when suddenly she heard footsteps. And then it happened. A little boy, around Lily's age, stood at the doorway. He had wide, innocent eyes, the kind that looked right through you. He pointed straight at Maria, then at Lily, and shouted, "Daddy, look, it's her." The room froze. Maria's heart pounded so loudly she could hear it in her ears. She pulled Lily closer, her face burning with confusion and fear. A tall man entered behind the boy. His clothes were neat, his presence commanding, but his eyes carried a heaviness that money couldn't erase. The boy tugged his father's arm, saying again, louder, "Daddy, it's the lady from my dream. She's the one who helped me." Silence filled the air. Maria blinked, not understanding, while Lily stared at the boy, unsure. The man frowned, looking from his son to Maria, and his lips parted as if searching for words he couldn't find. Viewers, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unseen ways life brings people together, please take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Stories like this remind us how fate connects hearts in ways beyond imagination. The boy ran straight to Lily and smiled, speaking quickly about a dream he'd had when he was sick, a dream where Maria and Lily gave him water and comfort. The man, whose name was David, stiffened. He remembered those feverish nights. His son, Ethan, had been ill with pneumonia and often spoke of a lady and little girl who kept him safe in his dreams. David had dismissed it as a child's imagination. But now, those very faces stood in his living room. Maria's instinct was to leave before trouble followed. She apologized nervously, gathering her things, and told Lily to get up. But David stopped her. His voice was calm, but it carried a strange urgency. He asked her to stay, to sit, to tell him her story. So Maria did. She told him of her husband's disappearance, the debts, the nights when food ran out, and the mornings of work where she carried Lily along. She confessed how she wanted her daughter in school but couldn't afford the books, the uniforms, the fees. Her words shook, but they were raw, as if years of silence had suddenly broken open. David listened quietly. His son sat beside Lily, already offering her toys, completely unaware of the storm between the adults. For David, the story hit deep. His wife, Ethan's mother, had died years earlier in a car accident, leaving him to raise his son while running his business empire in Seattle. Despite all his wealth, he knew grief, loneliness, and the hollow ache of questions he couldn't answer for his child. Something about Maria's honesty moved him. She wasn't begging for pity or charity. She was simply telling the truth because she had nothing left to hide. Weeks passed. Each time Maria came to clean, David saw more. Lily's shoes were tearing, but her smile never dimmed. Maria's jacket grew thinner as autumn grew colder, but her dignity stayed intact. And Ethan grew attached to Lily. They laughed, played, and read together. To Ethan, she wasn't just a friend. She was the girl from his dream. David's heart began to change. At first, he paid Maria extra quietly, then bought Lily spare school supplies, pretending they were old ones Ethan no longer needed. Maria noticed, and though her pride battled against accepting help, her daughter's joy always won. Then came the day Lily looked at Ethan's bookshelf, full of colorful stories, and whispered to her mother, "Will I ever have books like that?" That night in their cramped apartment with peeling paint and a flickering light bulb, Maria cried silently as Lily slept. She prayed not for riches, but for a chance, for dignity, for education, for a future where her daughter could dream freely. And David, in his quiet house, wrestled with his heart. His son kept repeating, "Daddy, she's the one." And David began to believe fate had brought Maria and Lily for a reason. One afternoon, as Maria mopped the hardwood floor, Ethan asked Lily to draw with him. Together they scribbled on paper. When David walked in, he saw Lily's drawing. A little house, a big sun, a stick figure of a woman holding hands with a girl, and beside them, another stick figure of a man smiling. "Who is he?" David asked gently. Lily looked up and said softly, "That's my daddy. I don't know where he is, but I wish he was here." The room went silent. Maria lowered her head, ashamed of her daughter's fragile hope, but David felt something break inside him. He couldn't replace Lily's father, but he couldn't ignore them either. Soon after, he arranged for Lily's admission to an elementary school in Bellevue, covering the costs quietly. He offered Maria a permanent position at his office in Seattle, not just as a cleaner, but as an administrative assistant with fair pay and stability. He even helped them find better housing closer to the school. At first Maria resisted, afraid of depending on someone, but David told her simply, "This isn't charity. This is what you and Lily deserve." From that moment, life began to change. Lily walked proudly into her new school, her backpack bouncing as she ran. Maria started her new job, for the first time working without fear of eviction notices or unpaid bills. Ethan and Lily became inseparable, sharing laughter and secrets like siblings. But the greatest change was inside Maria herself. For years, she had walked with her head bowed, carrying shame and despair. Now she lifted her chin. She smiled. She dared to dream again. And in David's quiet gaze, she saw something unspoken. A bond, perhaps even love, that made her believe maybe, just maybe, life had given her a second chance. Dear viewers, if this story touched your heart, if you believe kindness has the power to change lives, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. It helps us keep telling stories that remind the world humanity is still alive. And before we end, please share in the comments. Do you think people cross paths by accident? Or is it all part of destiny's plan? As the final scene plays out, picture Maria walking Lily to school under the crisp Washington morning sky, her steps light, her heart strong, while Ethan waits at the gate, waving. A life once clouded by despair now shines with possibility, all because of a child's innocent words, "Daddy, look, it's her."